They say blood is thicker than water, that family is everything, that you should always be there for your siblings, no matter what. But what happens when your own brother looks you in the eye and demands $1.5 million from you? Not as a loan, not as a favor, but as something he believes he's entitled to? My name is Eliana, and I'm about to tell you a story that will make you question everything you thought you knew about family loyalty. It was a cold November evening when my life changed forever. I was sitting in my downtown apartment, going through some paperwork, when my phone buzzed. It was a text from my brother, Marcus. "We need to talk. Tonight. It's urgent." My stomach dropped. Marcus and I had always been close growing up. He was 3 years older, the golden child who could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. I was the quiet one, the one who stayed out of trouble, who worked hard and never asked for anything. When our parents passed away in a car accident 2 years ago, they left behind a substantial trust fund. The lawyer explained that the money was divided equally between Marcus and me. But there was a catch for my portion. Our father, who had worked in finance his entire life, had set up my trust with strict conditions. I could only access it in full once I turned 30, or in portions for specific purposes like education, a home, or a legitimate business investment that required board approval. Marcus got his share outright, $2 million, free and clear. I remember the day we both sat in that lawyer's office. Marcus had grinned, already planning his future. I had simply nodded, understanding that Dad wanted to protect me, to make sure I used the money wisely. But now, 2 years later, everything was about to fall apart. Marcus arrived at my apartment at 8 o'clock sharp. I opened the door, and immediately, I knew something was wrong. His eyes were red, his jaw clenched. He didn't even say hello. He just walked past me into the living room and sat down heavily on my couch. "Marcus, what's going on?" I asked, closing the door behind him. He looked up at me, and for a moment, I saw something I'd never seen before in my brother's eyes, desperation mixed with anger. "I need money, Eliana, a lot of it." I sat down across from him, my heart racing. "What do you mean? What happened to your inheritance?" He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Gone. All of it. Well, not all of it, but most of it. I invested in some ventures that didn't pan out. Made some bad decisions. But that's not important right now." "Not important? Marcus, that was $2 million. "I know," he snapped, cutting me off. "I know what it was, Eliana. But I have an opportunity now. A real one. A tech startup that's going to change everything. I've been working with some developers, and we have this app concept that's going to revolutionize social networking. But I need capital. Real capital." My mind was spinning. "Okay. So, what does this have to do with me?" He leaned forward, his eyes locked on mine. "Your trust fund. I need you to request a withdrawal. $1.5 million. I've already drawn up the business proposal. It's legitimate. The trust board will approve it if you present it right." I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. "You want me to give you $1.5 million from my trust?" "Not give, invest. This is an investment opportunity, Eliana. When this app takes off, you'll make 10 times what you put in, 20 times. This is a sure thing." But nothing about his expression looked sure. Nothing about this felt right. "Marcus, I don't know anything about this startup. I haven't seen any business plan, any projections." "I'll send you everything," he interrupted. "But I need your answer now. The developers are waiting. If I don't secure this funding by next week, they're going to find another investor, and I'll lose this opportunity." I stood up, pacing across the room. My mind was racing with 1,000 thoughts. This was my brother, my only family. But something felt wrong. So deeply, terrifyingly wrong. "Why don't you get a bank loan, or find other investors?" His face darkened. "Banks won't touch me. My credit is not great right now. And other investors want too much equity. This way, it stays in the family. We both win." "What happens if it fails?" I asked quietly. The silence that followed was deafening. "It won't fail," he finally said, but his voice had lost its conviction. I took a deep breath. "Marcus, I need time to think about this. To review the business plan. To maybe consult with a financial advisor." "There's no time!" He stood up abruptly, his voice rising. "Don't you understand? This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Our parents left us that money to build our futures, not to hoard it away. Dad set up my trust for a reason, I said, my own voice getting stronger. He wanted me to be careful, to make smart decisions. Dad was paranoid, Marcus shouted. He thought everyone was out to scam us. He treated you like a child who couldn't make her own decisions. Tears stung my eyes. Don't talk about Dad like that. Then don't disrespect his memory by refusing to help your own brother. And there it was. The manipulation, the guilt trip, the emotional blackmail. I looked at my brother, really looked at him, and I didn't recognize the person standing in front of me. I need to think about it, I repeated, my voice barely above a whisper. Marcus stared at me for a long moment. Then he grabbed his jacket and headed for the door. Before leaving, he turned back. You have 3 days, Eliana. After that, I'll know exactly where I stand with you. And so will everyone else in this family. The door slammed shut, and I was left standing alone in my apartment, trembling. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. Marcus's words kept echoing in my head, but so did my instincts. Something about his pitch felt off. The urgency, the anger, the refusal to give me time to properly evaluate the opportunity. The next morning, I made a decision. Before I even considered approaching the trust board, I needed to know the truth. I started with a simple Google search. Marcus had mentioned the name of his startup, Tech Venture something. But when I searched for it, nothing came up. No website, no social media presence, no press releases. For a tech startup supposedly ready to revolutionize social networking, that was a major red flag. Then I did something I'm not proud of, but I had to know. I logged into Marcus's social media accounts. We'd shared passwords years ago for emergencies, and he'd never changed his. What I found made my blood run cold. Messages with people I didn't recognize, conversations about gambling debts, screenshots of betting apps showing massive losses, and then, buried in his email, I found it. A letter from a law firm representing a casino. Marcus owed them $850,000. They were threatening legal action. My hands shook as I scrolled through more emails, credit card statements with astronomical balances, loan documents from shady online lenders. Marcus wasn't just broke. He was drowning in debt, and the people he owed money to weren't patient. But the worst part? There was no startup, no developers, no revolutionary app. It was all a lie. He wanted my money to dig himself out of the hole he'd created. I sat back in my chair, feeling sick. My brother, my only family, had looked me in the eye and lied to me. He'd tried to manipulate me into destroying my own financial security to save himself from consequences he'd created. I wanted to cry. I wanted to scream. But mostly, I wanted to understand how we'd gotten here. I should have known Marcus wouldn't wait quietly for my decision. Within 24 hours of our confrontation, my phone started ringing off the hook. First, it was my Aunt Carol, my mother's sister. Eliana, sweetheart, Marcus told me about this wonderful investment opportunity. You should really consider helping him out. Family is everything, you know. Then my Uncle Richard called. Your brother is really onto something big here, Eliana. Don't let this chance slip away. Think about what your parents would have wanted. Even my grandmother called, her voice weak but insistent. Marcus says you're refusing to help him when he needs you most. That's not how we raised you girls. I realized with growing horror that Marcus had told everyone his version of the story. The version where he was the ambitious entrepreneur with a brilliant idea, and I was the selfish sister hoarding her wealth and refusing to support family. None of them knew about the gambling debts, the lies, the manipulation. But here's the thing about the truth. It doesn't stay hidden forever. I made a decision that night. If Marcus wanted to play dirty, if he wanted to turn my family against me based on lies, then I would show everyone exactly who he really was. I spent the next 2 days compiling evidence, screenshots of his gambling losses, copies of his debt letters, bank statements showing exactly where his inheritance had gone. I created a detailed timeline of his financial collapse, all backed up by documentation. Then I did something that would change everything. I scheduled a family meeting. The family meeting took place at my grandmother's house, a neutral location where everyone felt comfortable. Marcus arrived looking confident, probably thinking this was his chance to pressure me in front of everyone. My Aunt Carol was there, along with Uncle Richard, my grandmother, and 2 cousins who'd always looked up to Marcus. Everyone sat in the living room, tea and coffee on the table, the atmosphere tense. Marcus started immediately. I'm glad Eliana finally agreed to discuss this with the family. I think when everyone hears about this opportunity. There is no opportunity, I interrupted, my voice calm but firm. The room went silent. Marcus's eyes narrowed. Eliana, we talked about this. No, Marcus. You lied about this. I pulled out my laptop and connected it to my grandmother's TV. And I'm going to show everyone exactly what you've been doing. What are you doing? Marcus stood up, his face going pale. I clicked to the first slide, bank statements showing his inheritance withdrawal. Then the next slide, showing deposits into various online gambling sites. Then the casino debt letter. Then the loan documents. With each image, I watched my family's faces change. Confusion turned to shock. Shock turned to horror. Eliana, stop, Marcus said, but his voice had no strength in it. These are your bank records, Marcus, I said, keeping my voice steady even though my heart was pounding. This is where Mom and Dad's money went. Not into bad investments. Not into legitimate business ventures. Into gambling. Into casinos. Into online betting sites. My grandmother gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. And the startup? I continued. There is no startup. No developers. No app. I checked. There's nothing registered under that name. Nothing online. No business license. Nothing. It was all a story to get me to hand over my trust fund so you could pay off your debts. That's not. You don't understand, Marcus stammered, but he couldn't meet anyone's eyes. Uncle Richard stood up, his face red with anger. Is this true? Marcus? Did you gamble away your entire inheritance? I had some bad luck, but I can explain. Bad luck? I cut him off. You spent almost $2 million in less than 2 years. And now you want to take my money too? Money that Dad specifically protected because he knew. God. He knew. That's when it hit me. Dad had known. Maybe not about the gambling specifically, but he'd known Marcus's personality, his impulsiveness, his inability to say no to temptation. That's why he'd set up my trust differently. He'd been trying to protect me from this exact situation. Tears streamed down my face. Dad tried to protect both of us, and you threw it all away. And then you tried to manipulate me, to use our family against me, to make me feel like I was the bad guy for not enabling your destruction. Marcus sank back into his chair, his head in his hands. My Aunt Carol looked between us, her expression shifting from shock to something like understanding. Marcus, we would have helped you if you'd just been honest. If you'd told us you had a problem. I don't have a problem. Marcus exploded, standing up again. I just need one more chance, one more shot at making this right. Eliana, please, if you just give me this money, I can turn everything around. No, I said firmly. The answer is no. It was always going to be no. Because this isn't about helping you succeed. This is about enabling your self-destruction. And I won't do it. The aftermath of that meeting was devastating. Marcus stormed out of my grandmother's house, and I didn't hear from him for 3 weeks. The family was split. Some people understood why I'd refused. Others thought I should have helped him anyway, family loyalty above all else. But something unexpected happened during those 3 weeks. People started talking. Not just in my family, but in Marcus's wider circle. It turned out I wasn't the only person he'd approached for money. He'd asked friends, former colleagues, even his ex-girlfriend. The pattern of lies was extensive. One afternoon, I got a call from a man named David Chen. He introduced himself as a former business partner of Marcus's. I saw your brother at a casino last night, David said. He was using a credit card I co-signed on 3 years ago for a business venture we were doing together. The venture failed, but the credit card was never closed. He's run up $30,000 on it in the past month. I'm responsible for half of that debt. My stomach turned. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I'm calling to thank you, David interrupted. I heard through a mutual friend about what you did at that family meeting, how you stood up to him. It gave me the courage to file a police report for credit card fraud. He forged my signature on some of the transactions. I sat in stunned silence as David continued. Your brother has a serious problem, Eliana. And the worst thing anyone can do for an addict is enable them. You did the right thing. After that call, I started getting messages from others. A former friend who'd loaned Marcus $10,000 that was never repaid. A colleague who'd invested in one of his opportunities and lost everything. The picture that emerged was of a man who'd been spiraling for years, leaving a trail of financial and emotional destruction in his wake. And I'd almost become another victim. 2 months after the family meeting, Everything came crashing down for Marcus. The casino filed a lawsuit. The online lenders started collection proceedings. David's fraud charges were being investigated. Marcus's carefully constructed world of lies and manipulation was collapsing. He called me one night, and for the first time since this all began, he didn't sound angry. He sounded broken. "Eliana, I need help. Real help." I met him at a coffee shop downtown. He looked terrible, like he hadn't slept in days. Dark circles under his eyes, unshaven, wearing the same clothes he'd worn at the family meeting. "I'm going to lose everything," he said quietly. "My apartment, my car, everything. The lawyers say I might face criminal charges for the credit card fraud." I wanted to feel satisfaction, to feel vindicated, but all I felt was sad. "You need treatment, Marcus," I said softly. "This isn't about money anymore. This is about you having a serious gambling addiction that's destroying your life." "I know," he whispered. And for the first time, I believed he actually did. I've been lying to myself for so long, telling myself I could control it, that the next bet would be the one that fixed everything. But it never is it? I reached across the table and took his hand. "No, it never is." "I'm sorry," he said, tears streaming down his face. "For everything. For trying to manipulate you. For lying. For turning the family against you. You were just trying to protect yourself. And I made you out to be the villain. I forgive you," I said, and I meant it. "But forgiving you doesn't mean I'm going to give you money. It means I'm going to help you in the way you actually need help." Over the next few weeks, I used some of my trust fund for the first time, but not in the way Marcus had wanted. I paid for him to enter a gambling addiction treatment program, 30 days residential, followed by ongoing therapy and support groups. I made it clear that this was a one-time offer and that any future help would be contingent on him staying clean and working on his recovery. To his credit, Marcus agreed. He checked into the facility the following week. It's been a year since Marcus demanded that money from me. A year since everything fell apart. A year since I learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is to say no. Marcus completed his treatment program. He's been gambling free for 10 months now. He attends support group meetings twice a week. He got a job as a sales associate at a retail store, something modest that helps him rebuild his life one day at a time. Our relationship is different now. There's a distance that wasn't there before, a wariness. But there's also honesty, real, raw honesty about our flaws and our fears. He told me recently that I saved his life by refusing to give him that money. "If you'd said yes," he explained, "I would have paid off some debts, felt relief for maybe a month, and then I would have been right back where I started, because I wasn't dealing with the real problem. I was just putting bandages on a wound that needed surgery." The family eventually came around too. My Aunt Carol apologized for pressuring me. My uncle admitted he'd been wrong to judge without knowing the full story. Even my grandmother, in her quiet way, told me she was proud of how I'd handled everything. But here's what I learned through all of this. Sometimes, the people who demand the most from us are the ones who deserve it the least. Sometimes, family loyalty means setting boundaries, not erasing them. And sometimes, the cruelest thing you can do for someone you love is to enable their self-destruction. My father set up that trust fund to protect me, but in doing so, he also gave me the tools to protect Marcus from himself. By making it difficult for me to access large amounts of money impulsively, he ensured that I couldn't make emotional decisions that would hurt both of us in the long run. I think about him often, my dad, about his wisdom, about how he tried to teach us both responsibility, even if Marcus wasn't ready to learn that lesson at the time. Today, I still have my trust fund. I've used small portions for education, for building my career. I've been approved for larger withdrawals for legitimate purposes, always with careful consideration and planning. And you know what? I sleep well at night, knowing that I made the right choice, even when it was the hardest choice. Marcus and I had coffee last week. He's saving money slowly, planning for a future that doesn't involve get-rich-quick schemes or desperate gambles. He's learning to live within his means, to find satisfaction in small victories, rather than chasing massive wins that never materialize. "I don't know if I'll ever fully forgive myself for what I put you through," he told me. "You don't have to," I replied. "You just have to keep moving forward. Keep doing the work. Keep being honest. That's all any of us can do." As I walked away from that coffee shop, I thought about all the people who might be facing similar situations. Someone they love demanding money, using family loyalty as a weapon, making them feel guilty for protecting themselves. If that's you, Hear me when I say this. You are not responsible for fixing someone else's mistakes. You are not obligated to set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. And saying no to enabling bad behavior is not betrayal. It's love in its truest, most difficult form. My refusal shattered everything. It shattered Marcus's lies, his manipulation, his illusions. But in doing so, it cleared the way for something real to be built. Something honest. Something sustainable. And in the end, that was the greatest gift I could have given either of us. Sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is refuse to be someone's savior when what they really need is to save themselves.